Today I'm so happy to share with you a beautiful conversation that I had with Rebecca Campbell. If you don't know her already, Rebecca Campbell is an international best-selling author and a spiritual teacher whose books and oracle decks have sold millions of times, have been translated to over 40 languages in the world. Her mission is to help us live a more soul-led life, which is a topic very close to my heart, and reconnect with the sacred in life. For me, this interview has been really special because I've been following her work for many years now and I've been touched over and over again by the poetry and the depth of her teachings. In this interview, you will see that we dive deep into themes that are both universal and very intimate. We'll talk about the cycles and the birth and rebirth that we all go through in life and how to live those transitions. Rebecca also explains the concept of dark nights of the soul that transform us from within. And if you're someone who is going through a transition, who is in between cycles or living a big uncertainty in their life, you will find especially this interview very inspirational, I think, and I do hope it will help you navigate those feelings. We also talk about the healing power of reconnecting with our ancestors and our lineage. So if you are longing to feel more sacredness in your life, if you're someone who's touched by nature, by the presence and the beauty of the divine, then I am sure this interview will resonate with your soul. So make yourself at ease, maybe grab yourself a warm drink or something cozy and enjoy this beautiful and deep conversation. Hello everybody and welcome Rebecca to this interview. I'm really honored to have you here and to introduce your beautiful work to the French-speaking audience. Welcome.
Thank you, Jenna. Hi everyone.
I'm really happy to have you here today, and before we dive into our conversation, I want to give a little bit of context in why I'm doing this interview and how it's falling at a perfect moment, because I've been following your work for a long time now, for a few years, and now that we're done, because we have had scheduled this interview before, and it falls at a time where I am 7 months pregnant. Doesn't show on the screen. Thank you. With my first baby. And every time I interview someone, I really dive deep into their work, even if I know it already, but I reread the books, I listen to interviews. And over the past few weeks, I was listening to your last book called Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It. And usually I'm a reader. I rarely listen to audiobooks, but this time I was strongly, intuitively guided to listen to the version of the book that you are narrating. And it was such a beautiful experience. I was completely forgetting about question or topic to talk with you. I was truly receiving what you were sharing, and it felt as an initiation because you talk about, of course, the topics of motherhood, birth, and postpartum and pregnancy, but so many other topics. And you talk about the descent, you talk about the call of nature, which I deeply feel in my body. And I felt like it was, really like a calling. Well, the process, the journey that I'm on to become a mother, it's really like abandoning the apparently secured gate of the mind to really, descend, enter the body with presence and intensity. And I'm feeling that call right now, and you put words on this experience. And so I want to thank you for that, first of all.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah. And so I would like to maybe start this conversation with this topic of birth and rebirth and transformation, because it is the topic of your last book, which was released last year in 2024, and how it is an inherent part of the spiritual journey that we cannot avoid. Us, maybe human beings, we want everything to stay the same and to be comfortable. And even I feel like sometimes in the spiritual field, like some people or some teachings will make you see life as if it were possible to live the perfect, stable, secured life. And this is not what a
Mm,
true spiritual grounded life is about, is it?
Yeah, it's such a big topic. And, it's incredible that you're about to become a mom. And gosh, yeah, I mean, the thing that motherhood has taught me, if nothing else, is just how impermanent everything is. Gosh, even just like parenting, it's like the moment that you think that you know what you're doing, life before your eyes changes. And when I say life, I mean your children. And so motherhood has been the greatest teacher in that. And to be really frank, I had studied nature, I'd studied the mysteries, I'd studied so many different parts of the mystical living. And it wasn't until I became a mum and grew a baby inside of me that I was like, oh my gosh, all of these great teachings are really based on nature. They're based on nature. And I think that for many of us, we have been taught to not see the sacred that's all around us. And many of us, the wisdom teachings of our ancestry have been severed. And so seeing the sunrise and sunset, the coming and going of the seasons as part of the mystery school of life, we've been cut off from that. And I remember when I was pregnant and my husband and I were talking, and he realized, because he is very nature connected, and I remember him saying something to me that really took my breath away, where he said that he's like, my purpose is to really revere nature. And he said, and I feel so blessed because like, watching you with a baby growing inside of you, it's like I've got a front row ticket to the greatest show on earth. And wow, that is just so, so true. And these concepts of transformation and rebirth, really, it can all be found in the birthing process itself. I remember being a little further on in my pregnancy journey than you are now. It was around my due date, and there's this state that most mums to be get into, and I think it's purely biological, where it's like I was just talking to a friend, a husband of a friend of mine, and she's like literally in it right now, where she's like, right, we need to disinfect and everything, we need to clear everything, the baby's coming. And I remember I didn't do it so much with my daughter, but I did with my son, who was my first. And we had people scrubbing and oh my gosh, but it was so necessary. And around that time, I remember waking up in the middle of the night and, I've got my to-do lists and, oh, we still don't have this. And, oh, I didn't think about that. And how do you even teach a kid to read, And it's our tendency of, well, first of all, nesting and wanting to make sure that the container is there, but also controlling in a situation where we are so completely out of control. I remember writing, because I wrote a lot of my book, Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It, through all of these phases, and quite a lot of the poetry is written actually in the weeks before I gave birth to my son. And there was one thing that I wrote where I said basically, where I am going, to-do lists can no longer help me. I just need to surrender into the unknown and to, quite frankly, let the force of the universe move through me, because it's going to happen regardless. And like that is literally what's going to happen. So how can I allow that to happen? How can I surrender into letting that happen? Oh my gosh, birth is still teaching me. I feel like both of my kids' births, while very different, they're going to forever be teaching me. There's so much in there. And what I've also discovered is, and I feel like I I don't quite have the words for this yet, but I feel like with my two children and their births being very different, I actually think that their births, which I shared with them, actually holds medicine for them too, in understanding them and also parenting them. Yeah, I remember someone saying to me, I think it was before I had my first, saying there's a moment in the birth that can happen where you can like download the blueprint to be their parent. And I definitely, on an energetic level, understand that. I feel like I don't quite understand it with my mind yet. Maybe I will as they're older. My son's 6 and my daughter's 2. But I remember receiving like an energetic download very differently for both of them. And this is like, it's interesting because when, like with my first, with this book, especially, I was trying to describe to my publisher, I'm being called to put the motherhood initiation and birth into this. And it was misunderstood as if like I wanted to talk about mothering,
Yeah.
which I wasn't called to do. I definitely wasn't. Like I have great respect for people who like that is their path, but that's so far not my path. But what I wanted to talk about was this great mystery, this great initiation that every single one of us on the planet it has experienced, because we wouldn't be here had we not experienced it. And witnessing that gate of life where one moment before there's no child, the moment after there is, and how incredible it is to witness how different every single child is when they come in. And like, what is that? Like, where where were they before? And how is it that my son and daughter were so different energetically, just being a couple of seconds old? I just find that so fascinating.
It's so incredible. You talk about surrendering, and if there's one preparation, of course, apart from the
Mm,
reading and the exercises and then everything that you can do, the real preparation that I'm trying to really integrate is the surrendering, is
mm,
the leap of faith of really jumping into something that I cannot even start to fathom just
mm,
because I haven't experienced it yet. So I can only imagine
mm,
and visualize, but it's so far I haven't done it too much. Of course, I have like this vision of the birth that I want to have, but at the same time, I really have to surrender. And
mm,
I was thinking and listening to your book as well, what a mirror it is of life and of those cycles that we all go through regarding of
mm,
whether we have children or not, that process
mm,
of we have to really let go, shed, and also maybe say goodbye or grieve in some cases of the a part of our identity, or maybe of the life that we had the way it was, because it's changing and we cannot
mm,
predict how it's going to change, because just like you said, you cannot know the child you're going to have, how they will come into your life and transform it from within. And so I thought this was absolutely incredible. Would you say that your experience with becoming a mother was the spark that started that journey of leaning into that experience of being reborn, as you say in your book? At some point, you say
mm,
when you give birth to your daughter, you say a daughter is reborn as well as a mother.
mm,
So, would you say
mm.
that was like the spark, this experience of leaning into rebirth and death, and well, not
I
death because
mean,
you.
I feel like I got it on a metaphoric level before, and I'd studied the seasons before. So I had definitely experienced it before, but there, like, it physically, the change that a woman goes through when she has a baby, I mean, it's scientific. It's literally, there is no greater change. And it's like change, 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 like back to back. So it's like, it is just everything on steroids, really. And So I think that it wasn't like the beginning of it for me, but it was just like every part of me felt like I was experiencing it. Whereas in the past, it was just one part of my life that might have been experiencing it, whether it's like end of a relationship or change of career. Like I knew the thresholds that I needed to, and because I had studied the seasons, I understood it from that perspective. But motherhood was just like times 100.
Yeah, that's really that's so fascinating to me to listen to other mothers' experiences because everybody's experience is different, of course, but I feel like there is sort of like a wisdom that ignites every time a mother becomes a mother.
Mm,
And the birth of a baby is also the process of a soul incarnating, right? And we are the portal, we are the the vessel for this soul to really enter this earth and this plane. And so let's maybe talk about that if you want a
mm.
little bit. Also, because this week actually I have a a French book that is coming out, one of my new books that it is
Oh,
about the reconnection with the soul. So it's all like,
oh,
yeah, in
perfect.
alignment. And so, how would you say that you felt your soul throughout your life? Because I know you had an awakening experience when you were quite young as a teen,
Mhm,
but you also
mhm,
felt that connection with nature since you were a
mm,
child. And when would
mm,
you say you had that realization that you were connecting to your soul, even though maybe you didn't have the
mm.
words back then?
I think I always had this kind of nostalgic feeling of like a yearning, like a longing to like connect to something, but I didn't quite know what it was. I also had a innate knowing that there was some force in life that we can connect to. Like I remember I did sport when I was really young, like, well, my whole childhood. I was very sporty. I was a really good runner, for example. And before I would do my running races, I would pray. And I was like, I'd conjure that force to support me, to get what I wanted, basically, back then. But it was like this sense that it's just not, I'm not all alone. And at the same time, feeling like I was in many cases. And I think that was the nostalgic yearning to not be. But also, I found that when I was alone from the noise, I felt like I wasn't alone. So it's kind of like this polarity in a way. Yeah. And I think that in nature, we get that feeling a lot. I call it in my mystery school, I call it having an awe moment, a moment of awe, which is I think most people have it. I remember the first time I was really conscious of being in awe was I was driving. I had just gotten my learner's license, and I was driving around the coast where I grew up, on the ocean. And there's this one particular spot at Queenscliff to Freshwater Headland on the northern beaches in Sydney. And I drove the car, and in my rear view mirror, I saw the ocean, and it was like a full moon. It was just so swollen and just like, moving in harmony, glistening in the moonlight. And I literally was like, wow, like my breath was taken away. And I had this, it was a fleeting moment. And I believe we've all had these fleeting moments. But for whatever reason, in this moment, I really was in the moment. And I had this feeling of like being connected to everything in the universe and also so insignificant at the same time. And I think that is what awe does to us. It's why, my dad, who doesn't believe in anything so called spiritual, still sits on his balcony every night and watches the sunrise as the sunset. And he's having an awe moment. Now, he might not call it anything spiritual, but nature does that. beauty does that, poetry does that. They're all gateways to what I call the soul. And I think it is this polarity of ultimate connection, but also being part of something that's so vast beyond what we could possibly even begin to describe. Yeah, there's something about the opposites that bring union together. It's incredible.
Hmm. I'm just gonna wait. I don't know if you hear it. There's a plane passing by. You
No,
cannot
I
hear
can't
it?
hear.
Okay, I'll cut that because I don't want people to hear it.
Mm,
Yeah, thank you for sharing because I feel like you talk about nature a lot, the mystical school of nature. You say that we are nature, that we are the earth, or rather, you remind us of that because, of course, we are.
mm,
And how would you say that that connection with nature that you had since you were a child and that maybe you didn't put in the spiritual um, thought or you just had an experience of nature and then how it grew when you became an adult? How would you say that it was a teacher for you before you started like channeling and really connecting like intentionally with nature? How would you say it was a teacher for you in your life?
mm. Well, I think for me, it began with creativity. I started noticing that in order to come up with ideas, I needed to be calm and moving my body, actually. So, yeah, and being in motion. And so I began walking along the beach before I'd go to work. To my job was to come up with ideas. And I found out that I could do my best work when I did that. And so I think it was just an observation that of course I felt better when I was in nature. I don't know anyone who doesn't. But I discovered that it was like really, really smart for my career for me to do that. So it was almost like it was kind of mind and soul at the same time. And yeah, so I think that's when I discovered the connection with nature. And it was as I grew like through my 20s that I connected more and more with the consciousness of nature.
Mm.
And when I went more into my feminine, I realized "Ugh, I need to be held by something greater than my mind here." And so I would lay with my back on the grass or the earth, and I'd feel like I was able to surrender more. So yeah, I think it was both of those things. I had a second Kundalini awakening in 2012, and I began seeing like codes in nature and sacred geometry, that kind of thing. And I think that was really when I I really began to see this intelligent pulse that's woven through all of life, and that through being in nature, we can connect back in with that pulse. And
Mhm.
so I think that was probably my nature awakening, beyond like creative inspiration. Yeah.
Mm. Is that the moment where you started channeling messages from nature directly?
Mm. It's when I was consciously doing it. So I would go and walk and go to Regent's Park Rose Garden, and I'd go there to write.
Yeah,
And I
landing.
would, yeah, little by little. It's something I innately did even when I was in Australia. But it was after that awakening that I was like, okay, I'm going to consciously do that here. Like there was intention with it. Yeah.
Mm. And it was with the flowers first that you started receiving the
Yeah.
messages.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are great teachers in your work. You have an oracle deck about the
Mm.
rose, and throughout everything
Hmm.
that you share, you talk a lot about nature and how a mother earth is and how we can receive from nature and how also we have
Mm.
cut that link, really, that connection with
Mm.
nature. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about, and this is all related, but the connection with the mother, the great mother, the goddess, that is also a big part of your teaching and work. And and earth is one of the facets of this feminine energy. And how was your connection, your reconnection with the feminine in your life?
Mm. Well, I think like most of us in this modern world, I realized that I had been really living from my masculine for a very long time, and had kind of dismissed my feminine power, wisdom. And there was an awakening that happened around that, like, as in, oh, okay, I've not even considered the feminine, So that was like a very big thing. And it was actually what I when I came to Glastonbury for the first time and visited the Chalice Well, I really felt the presence of the goddess. I had always been connected to like Mother Mary, and goddesses, but it wasn't. But I hadn't I'd always been more like, okay, I'm going to connect with God, as in, and I suppose I did see God as a masculine image just because that had been projected to me for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I started questioning everything then and being like, oh my gosh, like we all have this ache for the mother, for the goddess, for the feminine. And but yeah, it wasn't until then that I became aware of it as an actual thing. And yeah, and then it was incredible because then I started discovering like our monthly cycle as women and just how different women are. And it's all a spectrum, of course. But just how much sacredness and magic I'd been missing out on just by seeing my life in a box-shaped world. Yeah.
Yeah, I do resonate with that. I feel like a lot of women are going through a similar process. I know I did, where I was very, driven and like really reproducing a model that I had
Mm,
seen of just like doing and being productive and having your mind being, valued, and the slowing down and the sensitivity and the intuition, which I did have. Gosh, I did have it, but I was like trying to really, shut
mm,
it down and hide it from the world, because I think a lot of us feel or felt that it was shameful in a way, and that
mm,
there is really I think it's beautiful to witness, but an awakening surrounding that,
mm,
to to put value and power and beauty in that polarity that is the feminine energy. And
mm,
you have had experiences, dreams and mystical experiences with that polarity, that goddess. Um, can you talk about that a little bit? Can you share maybe an experience that you've
mm.
had, or a
Yeah,
message?
sure. So I'd say so the my book Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It. It opens with a chapter called Fall Into My Arms. And it was a spontaneous experience I had. I was in my kirtan teacher training. And I mean, I describe it best in the book. I wrote that story probably about 50 times to get to that chapter. And each time, like this experience I had, it's like it's still teaching me today, just like the energy I receive every time I consider my kids' births. But I had this altered experience where my consciousness was hurtled into the center of the earth, into the arms of the great mother, the original mother of us all. And I saw the gates of life, birth and death, and how everything is just like held with a breath. And then I saw a group of beings that presented themselves to me as the ancient future grandmothers of the earth. And who they seem to be for me is all of our ancient and future ancestors. And they were singing us all in and really just acknowledging how challenging the human experience is and how severed we've become from the earth, how severed we've become from our bodies, and how, as a result, how severed we've become from each other. And that through kind of traveling through our ancestral lines all the way back to her ancient original mother, we will return to each other. So, yeah, and I think in that way as well, that really opened up this period of my life where I really unpacked and was forced to unpack all of the ways that I've separated myself off from the earth, from other people, and from my body as well. Yeah.
Mm. And I was going to ask you, what would you say for someone who's listening and who's really feeling that craving to reconnect with the
Mm.
Great Mother? What would you say are some tools that someone can use? But you said reconnection with the body and
Yeah, yeah. So a
the
great
earth,
tool
with
for it,
the
particularly if you're like someone who feels big feelings and you're kind of like, is this even mine or is it something I'm picking up? My favorite practice is like intuitive movement, like dance. So put on a song that matches how you're feeling and just let your body move you, if that makes sense. Because our bodies are so intelligent and it knows how to process emotion and energy. So that's a great practice. Another one is just notice the seasons around you if you live in a seasonal place. And if you don't, then just notice the nature around you. Notice the beauty. Notice the leaves beginning to fall. Notice the crunch of the leaves on the floor, on the ground, for example. And because as you notice nature changing, something shifts within us where we kind of, on some subconscious level, are able to loosen our grip a little bit more in how we're changing, because we always, always, always are changing. It's why our mood is lifted when we're in nature. Nature doesn't resist what it is, it's in harmony at every moment of every day. It doesn't like decide that one season or one state is better or worse than the other. It just is. And I think somehow that causes a surrender in us. I think as well, just seeing the beauty that's around you from a nervous system perspective. When there's beauty, we tend to feel calm and relaxed because, you know, it's like if you're in a beautiful home, someone's like put flowers out or, you know, decorated a cake or something like that. It's like something relaxes in us because if things are in emergency, we do not have time to make things beautiful. But there's something about beauty, not perfection, but
yeah,
beauty, as in that brings this
harmony.
sense of harmony.
Mm.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And also, you say in your book that we are trying to be in bloom all the time.
Mm,
That society really is trying to make us feel like we should be in bloom all the time, meaning that we should be always full of energy and maybe productive or out there or anything really. That moment of we are like the flower that is in bloom, like at our best, at our peak, and it is not sustainable and it is not the way of nature. It is not how we're supposed
mm,
to be and feel. And makes me think of another big topic that a lot of people are finding or looking for meaning is the dark night of the soul. And you say dark nights with an S of the soul because, of course, you say that we are going through cycles in life and that we have to absolutely surrender and to that it's not something to be avoided,
mm,
not something to maybe to fear or to run away from, but just like the process of birth, really, it's something that you go through and
mm,
you come out on the other side a different person, reborn. and you have to make space for the new. Maybe it's a new you, maybe, like you said, it's a new relationship, new whatever it will be. And did you have a dark night of the soul, or what was the one dark night of the soul that you had that really made you feel reborn and a new woman after?
Mm. I've had a couple of periods like that. I think the thing about the dark night of the soul or dark nights of the soul is just like grief, just like birth, just like the caterpillar that's in the chrysalis, which at some moment, and you don't know when, will turn into the butterfly. It requires a surrender into the mystery, into something way greater than we could possibly fathom, a trust in the intelligence of life, of source, of it all. And I think grief is a really interesting thing to observe, particularly if for anyone who's been through it, right? It is one of the most mysterious things that there is. Of course, we just want it to end. We want it to end. We want it to end. And we wish it would end on one night, not 2 or 3 or 3 years or 7, whatever it is. But I remember when I lost my friend Blair, he died very suddenly. And I felt like every single day without warning, at some point there'd be it's like a bus crashing through me. Like it was like this massive wave of grief, and red hot tears had come. It'd be like a wave crashing. And it had come without me realizing. Maybe something would trigger it, like a memory or a song or something, or maybe it would just come. And then eventually, little by little, it's like that Maya Angelou quote, "This too shall pass," and it will, but we don't know when. It's just like if you've gone through heartbreak, like a breakup. It's like little by little, you think that you're over that person and you're getting stronger and stronger, and then something will come and it'll crush you, and you're like, oh no. But eventually you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I saw that person's name and I don't feel a charge. We don't know when that moment's going to come, but it does come. Yeah. And
Yeah.
dark nights of the soul are like that. Dark nights of the soul cause us to kind of come down to our knees. They invite us to find the ground that has always been holding us. When we go through a dark night of the soul, it's essentially there's a complete loss that happens of whether it's like the loss of our understanding of how things work, the loss of these structures that once held us together. But what happens when you lose that, when you are seemingly like in the dark on your own with, nothing that can kind of get you out of there. There's no quick fix. There comes a moment where we must surrender and really find our ground. We're forced to face all the things that were actually always there. But because it was so bright on the surface, we just didn't look there. And so this is why there is this safety and power and wisdom that come through the dark nights, because we get to find the ground that's holding us. And there's this journey that I do, a ceremony called Unbound, Healing the Motherline. And it's a ceremony that we do where I imagine we're essentially healing our ancestral lines. We're releasing what we're carrying that is not even ours, or that we're willing to surrender. And my experience of it is we kind of go underground. We descend into the earth. And when I do this ceremony, it's so amazing because I feel so the word I was going to say is powerful, but that will sound completely wrong because there's nothing egoic about it. It just feels like I am in the power with
Yeah.
people.
I was going
I'm
to say
with
that.
everyone's
In
power.
power. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
because and the reason for it is that I know the ground there because I've been in the fall of, oh my gosh, what's holding me? What's holding me? Oh my gosh, how can I do this? Shed, 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 shed. And I've landed there, and I actually find it even more comfortable to walk there than up on the surface now. And so I'm kind of talking in metaphors in a way because I think what the subject that we're talking about is one of the greatest mysteries that there is. And it's like you can't
Beyond
kind of
words.
address this from the linear.
Yeah.
But I do believe that when we go through difficult periods, like I'm thinking when two of my friends passed away and my 11-year relationship ended, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like everything is crumbling around me. And I didn't want those things to happen. And at the very same time, there was this part within me, this little whisper that was like, oh no, something amazing is going to come of this. If you let yourself really feel all of it, if you let yourself kind of come undone, there will be a rebirth. And I do think that we all have that on some level, that little whisper, that little flicker. And that sometimes it's like it takes the universe to turn off all the lights for us to find that whisper, that inner light that's always been there. And that will always guide us through, probably not where we think it will. But I do believe we all came in with a destiny, a path. And I think how we handle what comes upon our path changes things, and how we respond to the energy, how we make meaning from it is completely free will. But I used to think it was all like a combo of free will and not. And I don't know. I keep on looking at my life recently, and I've been having conversations with a lot of them elders, some of them similar age to me, people who are really conscious on their path, and all of them have been sharing this similar message lately. So I don't know if it's something that's happening in the planets or what, but this kind of observation that there is this thread that's woven through our life. And I I just where I am in my life is like I'm surrendering to that. Yeah.
Mm. It's also a big reminder that the spiritual growth and life in
Mm,
general is not linear, it's cyclical. And that
mm,
we can just, yeah. Also, like, um, with what you just shared at the end in the book that I'm releasing right now, which is about the soul. One of the big topics that I talk about is the fact that I do believe that the soul, that whisper that you talk about, the soul does crave for the challenges,
mhm,
craves for not the terrible experiences and the experience in itself, but the circumstances and the going through this experience, if that makes sense. Like
mm,
I really feel like because the soul it has a different perspective than, of course, the incarnated self, which is bound to the ego and to self-protection. But the soul doesn't really care about that. It really wants to
mm,
grow and evolve. And for that, and to let emerge some soul qualities, it really does need the container. And sometimes that container is that dark night of the soul, is that
mm,
experience that will strip us bare from what we thought we knew or
mm,
who we thought we were.
mm,
And I feel like the soul had decided that in advance. Like from the experiences that I've had, like the messages that I've received, that the soul comes with a purpose to give and share and to be someone for the world, in the world, but also to grow in a specific way, in specific areas of who it is, and that it will create, the perfect environment for that, whether it's a culture, an experience, a story, a family. And yeah, well, I don't know where I'm going with that, but I do
Mm,
believe that from the soul perspective, we can look at our obstacles, challenges in a very different light. That is not so such the victim perspective or
mm,
the suffering human perspective, and it's very different.
mm,
And I feel like it really gives us back some power in a way.
mm.
I don't know if that
So
resonates.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah, it's the intelligence, isn't it? And
Mm-hmm.
then it kind of makes me think of like nature and the earth, and like it knows how to thrive. And obviously on the planet right now, us humans are causing more harm than anything. But that, yeah, even from that soul perspective, it's like, is like, do some of us come because of that? Like, is there an intelligence in all of that? And yeah, yeah. Mm.
Well, I feel like we could talk about that forever, and
Yeah.
I don't want to respect your time. Maybe just to finish this conversation, I also wanted to talk quickly about, well, quickly if it's possible, but about ancestral healing and that reconnection with the lineage, our lineage, because I feel like for a lot of people it's still very conceptual. And how do you do that? But mostly, I think my question is, when do you feel like there is a calling to heal or the system or the lineage?
Mm,
When maybe you have an experience to share, but when do you feel like, oh, I'm feeling called now to, yeah, to reconnect with that and to start processing all of what's
mm,
been unfelt?
mm. Well, I think that is the answer for that's going to be different for everyone. For me, I had done various different bits of work on it, but it wasn't until I became a mum that it really moved through me. And I think in the process of having my son, there's a concept called reparenting, where when your child is the same age that you were, like stuff can kind of come up for healing. So I think that, but also at the very same time, it was COVID, and I grew up in Australia, and so my family wasn't able to get to me, and so the borders were shut, and I started experiencing the trauma of my ancestors being taken off the land, and also being severed from the indigenous wisdom traditions of, like, basically living in sacred harmony with the earth. That just came through me and to me. It definitely wasn't something I was seeking,
Yeah.
but it was definitely something that and this is the free will piece. Like,
Mm.
I don't think I think my soul chose to do that, and that my soul chose my ancestry for whatever reason, and that it was always something that I came here to do. Now, I think that there are some people who maybe that's not their path. I do believe that there are many souls who are incarnating in ancestral lines that are different from where they used to, like as if we're kind of like mixing it up a little bit. And that's part of this like big shift that is happening now, where there's so much work being done. But I do think it's very individual. And yeah, it can be gentle for some and others way more brutal.
Mm.
Yeah, mine was really intense.
Yeah. Also, because you were
But
separated from your family when you gave birth
yeah,
to your son.
yeah. And I kind of also just saw how, my family line, one of them has a lot of trauma around birth. And so
Mm.
that's why becoming a mum, like the physical act of birth, was very empowering, but it was also, it unearthed a lot. And I do believe that for whatever reason right now, there are many who are here to break cycles.
Yeah.
And I think the tendency is to be like, everyone else in my line got it wrong and I'm here to do it. But what I'm really seeing is that for whatever reason, there is a safety for us to do it.
Hmm.
Maybe the safety is that we have a consciousness. Maybe the safety is that we've been on a spiritual journey long enough. Maybe the safety is that, we can turn lights on and off and have heating in our house. Like, we don't know what that safety is, but I do know that when there is a level of safety and comfortableness, things can come up. I know that from leading retreats. I remember when I led one particular retreat, I called my friend and just said, "Oh, there's all these, there's a lot coming up on this retreat. I don't understand why. Like, what am I missing?" And she said, "By any chance, have you increased your level of support on that retreat?" I said, "Yeah, I've got twice the amount of people holding energy with me. Safety." So, yeah, yeah.
Mm. Yeah. And to finish on that, I also feel like we, or some of us in our cultures, live in a life, in a society that now won't burn us, which is, or of
Mm,
course, I'm not saying that an alternative lifestyle is accepted and
mm,
praised, but with social media and internet, we can find our
mm,
tribe more easily, and we
mm,
do not fear for our life, our first chakra, our survival in a way. For those of us who live in such safe countries. And
mm,
I feel like this is why also maybe it's the time that some people are ready to speak and to, yeah, live a different life and embark on those processes.
mm,
Yeah, yeah.
mm.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for
Thank
all of your
you.
wisdom and also all the beautiful work you do through your books, your oracle cards that are incredible. And you have a podcast as well, a YouTube channel, so many teachings. You do music too. You're so creative. So I will invite everybody, if people didn't know you already, to really look into your work. I will say that a few of your books and oracle decks are translated in French, and
Mm,
I'm sure more publications are coming. And I will do my best to share them with the world, or that part of the world anyway. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jenna, and congrats on your new book. That's so
Yeah.
exciting.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and
Mm,
bye bye.
beautiful.